I guess I'm too dramatic with my hands. I'm
Okay, you're
sorry.
keeping our attention.
So that bothers me. I mean, all of a sudden you're not restricted in any way. With the map, one of the things that did bother me was, I go out to pick up my mail or look out my front door, I'm looking at a parking lot where there was no parking lot before. So we're looking at, I think there was 10 stalls and possibly not, I mean, I have 3 vehicles, so, so we're looking at 2 or 3 vehicles per unit. Looking at parking lot, parking, and street parking. So I would be less objectable to this myself if that parking lot, if the unit was switched and the parking, the row homes were facing East Avenue and the parking would be behind it. Of course, that would now face the people on the west side. They wouldn't like that either, I don't think.
Excuse me, Mayor,
So you're not going to make everybody happy. Am I 3 minutes up?
Okay, yep,
Anyway,
yep.
I was assured that this is not a rubber stamped thing. I hope it's not. I'm objecting to it.
Okay, and we
Thank you.
do have a public hearing on this later in the agenda. Welcome.
Good evening, board members. My name is Dan Doyle, and I live in the town of Onalaska off Lawrence Place, and this property is diagonal to the proposed development there. And I
Could
feel
you
like I
please
was
state
just here,
your address, please?
pardon?
House number?
W6615 Lawrence Place.
Thank you.
And I feel like I just went through this because you guys tried putting in a 50-unit apartment complex right across Lawrence Place from our house, me and my neighbor's house, and luckily somebody else bought the property and that never came to fruition. But I mean, right now, all of us neighbors like it there because it's quiet, and all of us on our street, which is Lawrence Place, are all single-family dwellings. And I mean, all the neighbors know each other well. We look out for each other. And I mean, the last tenants that lived in housing that we're talking about that's going to be torn down, I'm kind of glad they're gone because at 3 in the morning, a black pickup truck every night would be revving its engine. The yard looked like a parking lot of used vehicles. So I don't know, I think it's going to downgrade the neighborhood and property values myself. And I guess that's all I really have. Any questions for me?
We're not allowed to speak. We're just listening. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Mike Ersham, and I own property at 510, 512 L. Hauser Road. Had the chance to talk to Mr. Mooney yesterday, also to Katie, and I understand the situation with the number of units. Mr. Mooney indicated to me that his plan is to build no more than 5, perhaps 4, depending on the setbacks. At this point, he doesn't know if they're going to be single family or, one story or 2. He doesn't know if there will be attached garage or garages or parking. And he doesn't know if there would be a row of houses, or perhaps a split somewhere in between. He also indicated to me yesterday that he intends to do whatever he can do to make these properties available for sale as, I guess, condominiums, but he doesn't know about that, and if he's not successful with that, then he would use them as rentals. So based upon those representations to me yesterday, I don't have any position at this point on the petition. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Welcome.
Thank you. So is this the only time today that we have a chance?
No, we actually have a public hearing on this later. This is general, yep, following this is general public input. Anybody can speak on any topic that they would like.
Okay, so.
So you're welcome to speak. Just begin by saying your name and address. That's our only requirement.
Okay. Maybe I'll wait until the public hearing. Do we have more
That-
time at that time? then?
If it's on the agenda, that's appropriate.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak during general public input? Second call for general public input. Oh, I thought maybe you were coming around again. Okay, last call for public input. Okay, public input is now closed, and we'll move on to consideration and possible action on the following items. Now we're on number 4, which is a public hearing. This is the rezoning application to rezone a parcel of land from low-density residential R1 district to medium-density residential R3 district to facilitate a new row house development project located at 1035 East Avenue North. This is tax parcel ID number 18-2097-5, and the applicant is Riverland Investments LLC. So I'll ask first if there is anyone who would like to speak in favor of this rezoning application. Begin by stating your name and address.
I think this is live, isn't it? Yeah. Jacob Mooney, 1231 East Ave North, Onalaska, Wisconsin. I live less than 2/10 of a mile from 1035 East Ave and drive or walk past the property multiple times each day. We bought the property 5 years ago, viewing this location as a future development opportunity. East Avenue has become a fairly busy thoroughfare within the city, and I believe a well-designed townhome development could significantly improve the appearance and overall feel of the area. The property at 1035 East Avenue North is currently occupied by an old single-family home that has reached a point where significant reinvestment becomes difficult and inefficient. My goal is to redevelop the property into a small-scale, high-quality residential project consistency of approximate 5 to 7 condo townhome style units. Code book will allow up to 7, but there's a double, it's a side yard. I don't even think 7 will fit on there. It's hard to pencil out a smaller development in this area, as Jared can attest to. The sewer mains are like 26 foot deep. It costs 60 grand to hook up to them. There might be a better way to lay the lot out, maybe 3 units facing one way, 2 units facing the other way, so we can bury the traffic behind it. I know at the last meeting, I heard that you guys are gonna be putting sidewalks on East Ave, so maybe we could even do something where you walk out the front door on the sidewalk and garages are in the rear. I just didn't want to spend a bunch of money on architect and engineering before I got to this point. We're open to a single story with a basement, maybe 2-story, also 2 or 3 beds. It's walking distance to schools. This is not a proposal for a large apartment complex. The vision is for a well-designed, ownership-oriented, higher-end attached housing that offers an alternative option between traditional single-family and large-scale multifamily housing. These type of developments provide individual entrances, a more residential appearance, and a scale that fits more naturally into existing neighborhoods. It's going to be easier to get good tenants for a product like this than a old house that's got the ceiling's not even 7 foot tall. We just posted it for rent after the last tenant moved out after 5 years, and it was a struggle. I understand neighbors may have questions whenever change is proposed. However, historically, quality reinvestment projects like this tend to stabilize or improve surrounding property values, particularly when replacing aging or underutilized properties. While this proposal is relatively modest in scale, it still brings substantial investments into the location. Each one of these units is going to be worth more than this current house is. Onalaska's comprehensive plan specifically discusses the need for more middle-scale housing options. I believe this proposal aligns closely with those long-term goals. It is also worth noting in your comprehensive plan that condo-style development has became extremely limited. The last condo permit like this that you issued was in 2015. Yeah, I think it's going to be a good fit for the area, and hopefully it comes to fruition so we can get rid of that house and brighten up the area. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak in favor of this? Second call for anyone who wishes to speak in favor of the rezoning. Third and final call for anyone who wishes to speak in favor of the rezoning. Okay, that portion of the public hearing is now closed, and I'll ask for anyone who wishes to speak against the rezoning at 1035 East Avenue. So now this is when you should speak against the rezoning, and you can just briefly summarize if you want. As you prefer. Yeah, okay, that's okay. Begin by stating your name and address, though, just the same.
Jean Metke, and live at 1027 East Avenue North, which is the property directly on the line to the south. Upon receiving the notice dated July 14th of the proposed zoning change, I went to the city's site to learn more and was able to read the minutes from April 15th and May 26th meetings. And I also looked over the Onalaska Comprehensive Plan. I'd never seen it before. And as with anything, there are perspectives and influences on the perspectives. There's also hard and fast situations that don't allow for things. They're just fixed. I found that discussion on April 15th to be very interesting. So I have the following comments and questions. I appreciate Jacob's position, but I think if you stand, if any of you've ever been there, if you would stand on the corner, you see Schnick, you see, it's a corner, East Avenue and L. Hauser Road. You look up and down, even half block, you see duplexes and single-family homes for the most part. I mean, not for the most part, that's what you see. The mobile home park is there. I understand that's different zoning. I'm sorry, my voice. Different zoning, and there's that. But if you look down, it's single-family homes and duplexes. So this development, I think, makes sense. I do have a question about the sewer line. I don't know if it's to be addressed here. I don't know what the difference would be with a twin home or a twindo. How would the sewer line be different? And I'm a lay person, I don't know. But that would be a question I'd have, why that would be not available to be worked with based on that. So I just don't see how R3 zoning, it seems to be a big stretch for this situation, for this neighborhood. And as Dan said, we have been neighbors for many years. It's quiet, we get along, we watch out for each other. It's a very pleasant area. The other thing was mentioned, and I agree, it's only half an acre. I might be wrong. I understand, if I understand correctly, the city zoning is 0.25 acres or just under for 1 or 2 family units. This would be accommodating a parking lot and all these other units. That doesn't make sense. It's a stretch. So then I just want to make sure there's all these, I need to understand the language that I came across in the April meeting. There's discussion about mandates and the plan or whatever. So I just have a specific question. Is the city or any other related entity receiving state or federal monies or incentives to implement rezoning? Is that something that's going on? Mandate, the term mandate, what mandate is being referred to in the decisions? I'm not sure what that means. For high density, is there a Section 8 requirement? The term affordability is mentioned. Is that a reference to rezone for a certain percentage of subsidized housing? Is that where this is going? I just have questions. And then, Jacob, you said something about your vision in the May 20, you repeated, I think, here. Ownership-oriented housing. So you said they are going to be for sale initially, and that's it. Or are you the landlord, or? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, you need to address the council, and we
Oh, I'm
can't really
sorry.
reply.
That's what
This
I meant.
isn't a
Okay.
dialogue. You
Okay.
just speak, and that's,
Okay.
we're listening, though. And
Yeah, and then I do have questions about, since we are just next to it, we would request a privacy fence be erected. Will there be a sidewalk? Things like that, but I think that can be addressed otherwise. And then just to finish, and Mayor Smith, you came into the library the other day, and you and I talked, you gave us those
Yep.
pamphlets for
Yep.
the, that was
Sunday.
me. So, After reading the April 26th back and forth, the interesting discussion, I just feel like the weight should be given to the character and attraction of Onalaska. What is it if it's not the neighborhoods and the feel of those neighborhoods? And we just celebrated our 175th, and that, you know, people entered and said what they liked about Onalaska, and I feel like we better have weight to that. And then the only other thing that, I went on the comprehensive plan, excuse me, it states, the city's R3 zoning district facilitates this land use, and the future land use strategy identifies locations where it can be impactful, increasing density around downtown, while keeping the building scale consistent with the existing neighborhoods. And I strongly feel it's a stretch to do anything other than the building scale consistent with our existing neighborhood. And that's how I feel. That's it.
Hello,
Welcome.
I'm Steve Metke at 1027 East Avenue North, Jean's husband, and also obviously neighbors right next door to the lot. I did not go too deep into the specs on the building and the property and all those things. I just have lived this experience, and I want to share it. It's frustrating to me. I thought maybe we've lived there for 32 years. We've had lots of experiences with neighbors and rentals. And after the property changed hands 5 years ago, a single lady moved in. Yay, that was nice. Moved in right next door. Good deal. As things progressed, it turned into a salvage yard in our backyard. Multiple 5, 6 trucks, multiple boats, campers, really turned into a garbage lot. Did not appreciate that. And I'm thinking, yeah, I guess, I understand somebody came in, swooped in and bought a low rent district, property, probably a slumlord from Milwaukee, Madison, or the cities. I get it. Probably doesn't see the property, doesn't know what's going on a daily basis. Then I got this, and I read that the landlord, the property owner, went by that property multiple times a day, multiple times, and had to see it deteriorate on a daily basis. And that angers me. So I'm afraid if you're going to put property next to it, if it's rental, this was a single lady. It ended up she had 4 kids, 4 burly, bearded boys that moved in with her. Okay, living in the camper in the backyard, in the garage. Awful. I didn't say nothing about it. We didn't make complaints. The lady was nice. She was friendly. But to know that the property owner, I found out when I read this, walked by that property multiple times. Did he see the carport that was blown in the wind, backed up against my fence? Why didn't he say something about it? Did he see the 4, 5, 6 vehicles parked in the lot? Why didn't he say anything about it? Did he see the camper in the back lot with somebody living in it? He didn't do anything about that. This is the first time I've seen the owner in 5 years. He doesn't care about my property. He doesn't care about Onalaska. If he cared, he'd have done something about it, and he didn't. It's extremely aggravating to know that this progressed with the owner walking by. So I don't think this should pass if that property management team is going to oversee this. Do not give the keys to this. I'm sorry that he made a mistake in purchasing the property. I think he should sell it. If he can't make it work, sell it. But please don't give him the keys. Let him change the rules and then give him the keys to mess this up. You guys won't be here in 5 years. I will. And I don't think it's going to be a good deal. If you're going to do this, I would like a 20-foot wall between property, because I don't want to deal with it. One lady, one tenant turned into a mess. Can you imagine 5? 5 times this? I don't think he's capable of managing that property. I don't think it should happen. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else would like to speak against? You can? Yep. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Alice Knapp, 430 Schnick Road, and I don't agree with changing it to an R3. I think an R2 would be okay, but an R3, I think it's too much. The way the map he had drawn out, he's putting a parking lot right next to a bedroom window of our house. And when I read how far from the property, it's enough that there's one driveway in to the 10 vehicles, plus there will be all the parking. We already have people from the trailer park across the street parking on Schnick. And in the winter, when you do parking on one side of the street, you will have even more problem, as well as the safety of the kids who cross the street if there are children living in that, to go to the bus stop if there's no sidewalk. So my concerns are that there's too many people and having a parking lot, and I'm really not wild, as he was talking about, possibly putting all the vehicles behind it, which would be still parking in my house, as that truck used to drive across the lawn next to my house at 3 o'clock in the morning very loudly, and we'd hear it, and that wasn't even the driveway, and the driveway comes off of East Avenue. So that's my say. And I know that once this gets decided, as far as an R3, it's very hard to shift it back to an R2, because then the building's been done, it's already been decided. I understand that maybe moving it up from my house is zoned as an R2, but we're still a single residential household. Anyway, so I'm not for it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well, come up if you want to speak. So now's the time. Everyone can speak once during each section.
My name again is Mike Ersham. I own a duplex around the corner. I also live on Elhauser Road. Couple things I heard in talking to Mr. Mooney yesterday is, and maybe today, is that there may be some sidewalk on East Avenue going in. And if that's the case, I assume that would have the practical effect of making the land available for building less. It would also increase the traffic, and the safety of the intersection. And one gentleman was concerned about the, being right next door to it. And I can share that sentiment as well. It seems to me that one of the things that the city could require would there be some shrubs or a fence or something like that to protect the existing houses, maybe on both sides, probably be the south side and the east side. Beyond that, as I said before, my understanding also, based on my conversation with Katie, is that there has to be 1.5 parking places per unit. So with 5 units, that's 7.5 parking places. Could be garages or could be surface parking. So as I said, based upon if all of these things are concerned, taking in again to account the traffic issues and the sidewalk and what effect that would have on the building, if it's limited to 5 or less, and if there are garages, it'd be great. If there's surface parking, there's maybe a way to help out with that. Beyond that, as I said, I don't have any position. I don't take a position either way on whether you should approve this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so each person can speak one time during each agenda item, if you're not familiar with how it goes, and it's not a dialogue. We talk, the people who are speaking in favor usually go first, and that closes, and then the people who are speaking against. So right now, the people who are, I'm asking for people who are speaking against agenda item 4. So I'm going to do a call for anyone who wishes to speak against agenda item 4, which is the rezoning of 1035 East Avenue. If you have not spoken yet and you would like to, now is the time to do so. second call for anyone wishing to speak against agenda item. You've already spoke. You're done. If you have not spoke yet,
I don't have it, I can't say one more thing.
no, you're done. You can when we get to agenda item 5, but not for agenda item 4. Okay. Okay. Last call for agenda item 4. Anyone wishing to speak against? Third and final call. Okay, the public hearing is now closed for the rezoning application for 1035 East Avenue. And I'll ask our city planner, Katie Aspenson, to introduce this item to the Plan Commission this evening. Katie?
Thank you, Mayor. Before you this evening is a proposed rezoning request from a single low-density residential R1 to a medium-density R3 district. The comprehensive plan identifies this area as single-family attached residential, middle-scale housing, and land use category. The Live On a 2040 comprehensive plan notes that this land use is specific to duplexes, condos, and small-scale multifamily buildings, allowing up to 8 units, depending on the parcel, to represent a key growth area of the city and serve as a middle ground between single-family and two-family housing, as well as large-scale multifamily development. The parcel in question currently has a single-family dwelling and is on an approximate half-acre parcel with access to the site from either East Avenue North or Schnick Drive. The developer is requesting to rezone the property from R1 to R3 in order to accommodate a future small-scale multifamily row house development. Included in the packet is a conceptual site plan showing a proposed location and count of row housing, parking configuration, and access to the site. Do know that this proposed concept plan is conceptual in nature, and if the rezoning is approved by the Common Council, this developer will be required to adhere to all aspects of the Unified Development Code zoning ordinance and apply for site plan review. So things that would address is the amount of parking that's required on the site, screening requirements for neighbors. People had noted questions of walls or fencing. The developer would be required to do something of that nature. They would also have the opportunity to do a living fence. Oftentimes developers will work with neighbors to find out what it is that they want and try to produce that for them. Additionally, the applicant recently amended our future land use plan with this proposed project in mind at the previous meeting in order to conform with the Live On a 2040 plan. City staff have put together a total of 9 conditions of approval for this development. After the public hearing has been held, testimony should be considered before deciding on the requested application. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for that, Katie. With that said, I'll turn this matter over to the Plan Commission this evening. What is your desire?
I'll make a motion to approve the rezoning application, rezoning a parcel of land from low-density residential R1 to medium-density residential R3, facilitating a new row house development project located at 1035 East Avenue North, which is tax parcel 18-2097-5, with the 9 conditions as outlined by Ms. Katie Aspenson.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Eric Archer. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, this motion has been seconded by Jared Holter. Discussion. Jared.
Yeah, just for a couple things that came up during the public hearing there. This area has been identified to have sidewalk installed along East Avenue. The city has secured a grant to install that sidewalk and redo the street all the way from Spruce Street at Northern Hills all the way up to the new compact roundabout at Riders Club Road. That design will start in, the city will hire a consultant to assist with that design. That design will start hopefully in 2028, progress through 2027, 2028, and then it will most likely won't be built until 2030. It will have to be bid through the state due to the grant funding. So that takes extra time and extra paperwork to get done. So it isn't going to be done tomorrow, but there is a project on the books to complete the sidewalk along East Avenue. No sidewalk planned on Schnick Road at this time, just has not been actually looked at along that route. That street is on the 5-year list, capital improvements list to get paved at some point. Probably in the next 5 to 7 years, it'll probably be repaved and will probably be looked at that time. But typically during paving projects, unless there's public input that they want the sidewalk, it usually does not get installed. The developer did bring up the sanitary sewer in East Avenue is about 27 feet deep, so it is a single-family lateral for the property. The developer will be having to go into Schnick Road or East Avenue to get more water and sewer utilities for the project. If this is installed, those will be part of the site plan review and also be performed to city standards when it is done. One of the other questions was traffic. Typically, for a single-family home, we usually, with standards, figure 9 trips a day. That is, each trip in and out would be 2 trips. So 9 trips a day is the average. For the 5-unit development that I see here, I would probably put that at 7 because usually there's a little less density in the units. The units are not as big as a single-family home typically for what we use as design figures. So you'd be at approximately 25 to 30 trips more on our street system with this project as it's shown today. I do believe East Avenue and Schnick Road are capable of carrying that traffic at the times. Those 25 cars will not be all at one time. East Avenue has, I'm working off memory here, but I think East Avenue has almost 3,500 to 4,000 trips a day on that street already. So adding 25, I don't think you will not notice that difference. So, in my mind, our infrastructure can handle the traffic from this development. So,
Jared, I did have one additional question about the sidewalk. I know it's just a conceptual plan that the developer has provided and that oftentimes causes frustrations for people, but does the concept plan take into consideration the sidewalk easement?
So right
knowledge, or
now
maybe
there is
Katie's?
city right-of-way that is typically, that street is 43 feet wide, so the city right-of-way is approximately 11 and a half feet behind the curb that's out there today. No building can occur within that right-of-way, and then the zoning setbacks that would be part of the zoning code would actually push that building or any parking back from the right-of-way. So, for instance, any parking would have to be 5 feet back from the right-of-way, and any structure in R3 is 10.
Thank you.
The yard would be 25 feet.
25 feet for a street yard. So that would be backed up from that area. The sidewalk would be installed within the public right-of-way. So whatever develops in this property, whatever happens to the property, they can't encroach on the public right-of-way where the sidewalk would be installed.
Okay, so it's already accounted for.
Correct.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments from the commissioners? Eric?
Katie, just to confirm for me, so the Live On a Plan 2040 is our guiding light. It's our Northern Star. We're the first mechanism by which that's forwarded and approved and reaches its goals, or it's off-ramped and perhaps taken another way. So the Live On a 2040 plan, does that already designate this parcel as allowing duplexes, condos, and multifamily up to 8 units?
It would allow the R2 or R3 zoning district, yes.
Okay, thank you. And it's my understanding this is identified as a key growth area inside of that plan?
Yes.
Okay, so that's important to me as a plan commissioner. I appreciate the developer it doesn't always happen where a developer comes in and is present. So I appreciate, and the modification of the plan as a plan commissioner for a little bit, that doesn't always happen either, where somebody modifies a plan, having heard the community. So that's also something to note. Gene, I was in that 15 April meeting that you referenced in those minutes. I was one of the people in that meeting, and I recognize the tension between plans and policies and the people that actually live next door. So I want to, appreciate what you had to say there, and I understand it as well. Where I'll go tonight is that con plan, because that is our focus as a plan commissioner, and mine specifically. So I just wanted to confirm that this is in alignment with the plan, and then the developer's actions are as well.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Kathy?
I think Katie may be able to remind me, if we, as a plan commission, approve the rezoning tonight and then goes on to council, and if council ultimately approves, then the developer would have to then come bring their plans back to us for ultimate approval, do they not?
No, so if the Plan Commission recommends approval, it would go to the Administrative and Finance Committee, and then subsequently to the Common Council. And if the Common Council approves the rezoning, then the rezoning goes into effect. It would be R3 at that point in time. So the rezoning doesn't lapse over time. So the developer at that point would be able to come in with not a concept plan, but a full-on plan that talks about parking, landscaping, setbacks, buffering, everything, and that would go through city staff. And because of the size of the property, they would have to adhere to all of the city's requirements. In this particular district, we also have district-specific requirements related to architecture. It's one of the few districts of our code where we actually tell you what percentage of window transparency you have, what sort of design features that you have to incorporate. And the intention of doing that is so that when these types of developments come forward, city staff put a lot of emphasis on trying to make sure that development will fit in with the existing neighborhood. But this plan would not go back to the Plan Commission. At that point, it would stay at city staff, and city staff are responsible for enforcing all aspects of the code.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the commissioners? Jan?
I certainly agree that this particular property needs to be cleaned up or something needs to be done with it. It's kind of a mess, as one of the gentlemen said. I'm always the one who is concerned about density. Had they come in and asked to rezone it to R2, I probably wouldn't have had any concerns about it. But one thing I want to ask is that has the developer talked to the neighbors? It seems like there are a lot of issues here that could be solved if people simply talked about these before it got to this point, you know.
If you,
Just a question.
Katie, did you want to answer that?
if you want to hear from the developer, he is available this evening, but the Plan Commission would have to request him to speak.
Okay. Mr. Mooney, can you come to the microphone? Have you had dialogue with the area neighbors?
I haven't talked to him too much about it, but I think, judging by the way everyone feels about it, it should be a positive to get something new and nice in there. The last lady we had in there, I mean, she was in there for 5 years. It was, I mean, we didn't really know what, I mean, she was good. She paid rent. I mean, she had family issues. You can't just, every time you get a tenant that's just what you're going to get when you got a half acre, you got a half acre house like this. You get, you know, they got multiple vehicles. It's just, it's a tough place to rent out. But we didn't just want to throw her out on the street. But yeah, I guess I should have stopped and talked to the neighbors a little bit about it and been up front. I'll give them my number because with the new people we just moved in, they can give us some feedback on them. So, I mean, this isn't going to happen overnight. We're at least a year out. We just signed a year lease with somebody else. So we're going to take it slow, get it right. So.
Okay. Stacy?
I have Amanda Jackson would like to speak.
Okay. Amanda?
Thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to talk a little bit about a law that was proposed in 2025. It was enacted in 2026, and it has phased-in requirements that are going to happen with full enactment beginning in January 1st of 2028, and it's called the Truth in Planning Act. And what that law fundamentally says is that if a development like this aligns with the city's stated goals of its comprehensive plan, as well as, you know, development throughout the neighborhood, then ultimately the city is required by law to approve the rezoning. And so while that has not fully gone into effect as of today, it has already been passed into law with a future implementation date. And so if the Plan Commission were to vote this down tonight, that would simply be a delay because there will be a date in the future, not too far out, in which if the developer came back with the same proposal, the city would by law be required to approve this. And so I think that is worth some consideration from the Plan Commission, is that if your desire is to vote this down tonight, that is only temporary, that you will in fact, come a time very shortly where this is going to be required by law. And so I think as we consider both this item and, the next item, I think that is something that's worth considering is really fundamentally from a legal standpoint, the question should be, does this align with the city's comprehensive plan? Yes or no? And then Katie, as she goes through site development plan, looks at buffering, parking, she can work to alleviate some of the neighborhood's concerns.
Thank you for that, Amanda. Eric Archer?
Just quickly, I want to push back against the conversation perhaps on any one person and how they live and what they do and how many, I don't think that's probably appropriate for the room here. As I understand, the designation will run with the land and not any one person. So it doesn't matter what any one person in the past has done. I think we've all had adversity, and I'm not saying that from someone who lives in a special place. I've lived that life myself, and we all have been in spots. So I would just like to request perhaps all of us to do away with any comment on one person and how they've lived in one home. This will go way past that. And then I'm grateful for that comment from Amanda, because as an Army officer for 20 years, I don't like giving up authority, but exercising authority in the room as plan commissioners in terms of it's my gut that this should be this or that, when it in fact conforms with a con plan that was developed by, through, and with the community, I think is a dangerous thing. So just for all of us here, I think that for me is welcome, because the con plan is just worthless if we had come up here as commissioners and then we are persuaded or concerned to a degree and we undermine a plan that has been approved. So just that first request for all of us, I suppose, and then I understand what Amanda's saying and what that means for us today, but then also down the road perhaps once it's implemented. That's all.
Thank you, Eric. Any other comments or questions from the commissioners? Okay, we do have a motion on the floor to approve this rezoning request that does have 9 conditions. Any other questions or comments? The motion on the floor is to approve with 9 conditions. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no.
No.
Okay, so we have 1 no vote. I guess I'm not sure how many people we have here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yes and 1 no. It passes. Thank you for that. Okay, we'll now move on to item 5. This is a public hearing for the rezoning parcel of land from a low-density residential R1 district to a high-density residential R4 district to facilitate a new row house development project located at 2137 Sand Lake Road. This is tax parcel ID number 184509-1, and the applicant is All Things Holding LLC. I'll now open the public hearing and ask if anyone would like to speak in favor at this public hearing. Again, the format is the same. If you'd like to speak in favor, come up, state your name and your address, and give your comments in favor. And when those have been exhausted, we'll move to those speaking against, and then the commission will adjust. So now I'm asking for anyone speaking in favor. Come on up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Alexis Brott. Do you want the address of the property or my personal? I own the
Personal
property.
address. Your address.
So my.
You can say both if you feel
Okay.
it's relevant.
My home address is W7094 Garter Road in Holman, Wisconsin. The address that we're talking about, 2137 Sand Lake Road, is a property that I am a member in. I have been since 2015. Since the time we purchased that, we have done some I don't want to say rudimentary things, but have cleaned up the property, which was a farm for a number of years. We have put in fill and taken out a number of the outbuildings to a point where we would now like to move forward with building the area with the surrounding areas where things have kind of made a need for more housing. We're proposing something that would be workforce housing, self-contained on a little less than 6 acres, a townhouse style. So as we know, our economics today, or our economy, our interest rates are high. That pushes people that are, just median wage earners in a place where they're not buying houses like they were. We've built and owned rental property for 30 years plus, and we would like to develop this for the future of Onalaska and business, workforce individuals to have a place to live and not have to buy. But we do all of the lawn care and snow removal, so it would be maintenance-free, allowing them a little bit more freedom and still have that feel of a home. So that's what we're hoping to do today and moving forward.
Thank you so much. Okay, would anyone else like to speak in favor? Welcome.
Jacob Mooney, 1231 East Ave North, Onalaska, Wisconsin. I'll speak in favor for this. I own 76 apartments in Holman next to theirs, and they're great landlords. The property's beautiful. They're good to people. Yeah, I can't say having a complex next to theirs, can't say a bad thing about them, so.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this rezoning application? Second call for anyone wishing to speak in favor. Third and final call for anyone wishing to speak in favor of the rezoning request on Sand Lake Road. Okay, that portion of the public hearing is now closed, and I'll ask if anyone would like to speak against this rezoning application. Welcome.
Hey, thank you again.
It's okay.
Can I ask a question on the previous?
We can't answer any question. You can ask the question, but we can't answer
Well,
it.
let's make a statement on the comment about the law. It's like, if,
You can say whatever you want, we just can't answer.
if the law is going to be determined, I mean, that whatever is in the plan, was a plan established to the specificity, knowing that that law would take that much power away from you? That's a question that I would ask, and I would consider relooking at that future planning document, given that news that we heard. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. All right. Well, thank you in allowing me to speak. My name is Mike Eckstein. I live on Pine Ridge Drive, 1820, right across. This development is right in our backyard. So I want to begin by saying that I am not opposed to growth at all. I recognize that Onalaska needs additional housing. And I appreciate the work the city staff, the planning commission, and even the developers in this community have in what they invested in the proposal. My concern is whether this rezoning represents good planning and whether the requested R4 high-density residential zoning has been adequately justified. Decision is more than just one development. It is about how Onalaska chooses to grow while honoring the planning principles it has adopted and preserving the character of existing neighborhoods. One of the most fundamental principles of land use planning is compatibility. An R1 neighborhood is designed for detached single-family homes as ours and my neighbors. It is characterized by lower traffic volumes, fewer vehicle trips, less parking demand, lower noise levels, fewer deliveries and service vehicles, and quieter residential environment. By comparison, on the complete opposite of the spectrum, an R4 high-density residential is intended to accommodate as much greater concentration of households and density. With that comes the opposite: substantially greater daily activity, more traffic, more visitors, increased parking demand, more deliveries, refuse collection, maintenance activity, lighting, and overall neighborhood intensity, and by definition. Neither zoning district is inherently good or bad. They simply serve different purposes. The question before the commission is whether the city's highest density residential zoning is compatible immediately adjacent to an established R1 neighborhood. Good planning typically provides gradual transitions between neighborhoods. Moving directly from one of the city's lowest density residential districts to its highest density residential district represents a significant change in intensity, and I do not believe the need for that transition has been demonstrated. I also reviewed the city's Live ONA 2040 comprehension plan, and the future land use map identifies this property for multifamily residential use. However, the comprehensive plan does not require R4 zoning to meet that objective. Multiple residential zoning districts can implement that future land use designation. So that raises an important question. Why is R4 the appropriate zoning classification for this site? The explanation provided to me, at least initially, has been that R4 is necessary because the developer wishes to construct 48 dwelling units. Respectfully, that explains why the developer's proposed design requires R4. It does not explain why R4 represents the best long-term planning decision for this property. Zoning should guide development, not be changed simply to accommodate one particular development proposal. I also reviewed the Live on a Community survey, which found that single-family homes were the housing type most desired by its respondents, directly out of your own survey. The survey also reflects residents' desire to preserve neighborhood character while planning for future growth. I believe those goals can coexist through thoughtful planning. I would also ask the Commission to consider the importance of consistency in its planning decisions. In 2025, the city considered a proposal to rezone a Fairfield Street for higher density residential development. The Plan Commission and Common Council denied the rezoning after considering issues as neighborhood compatibility, traffic, pedestrian safety, access, parking, and overall fit of the development within the surrounding. And in particular, in this case, it was an existing R2, and they requested to go to an R4, not even an R1. The planner went back after that and requested an R3, and it was shut down again, and it maintained R2 to the best of my knowledge based on the records on your website. So I recognize every property is different, but planning principles should be applied consistently. If compatibility, neighborhood character, traffic, and access were important there, they deserve the same careful consideration here from the Planning Commission. I also understand that a higher density proposal for this property or this general area was considered many years ago, about a decade ago, and did not move forward. If that is correct, and correct me if I'm wrong, I respectfully ask the Commission to explain what concerns led to that earlier decision and what has materially changed today. If the earlier proposal raised questions about compatibility, density, traffic, floodplain limitations, which is important, drainage or access, the public deserves to understand why those concerns have now been resolved. I remain concerned about the acknowledged floodplain constraints affecting this property, and I'm open to learn more. If portions of the site are constrained by floodplain regulations, I believe that should prompt careful consideration of whether a lower intensity development would be more appropriate than increasing residential density. So before approving this, I'd like to respectfully ask the Commission, in your role, to consider 5 questions. How is R4 compatible with the existing R1 neighborhood and the people that have lived there for years? Why is R4 the most appropriate zoning classification instead of a lower density residential district? How is this decision consistent with the goals of the Live on a 2040 comprehensive plan? How does it reflect priorities expressed in the survey by the residents that live in your community and who you represent? What has materially changed since the city previously considered higher density development from the property in the past? If these questions cannot be answered clearly, I believe approval of this rezoning would be premature. Good planning is not measured by how many units can fit on a parcel. It is measured by how thoughtfully growth is integrated into the existing community while balancing the needs of current residents, future residents, and the long-term vision established by the city itself. For these reasons, I respectfully ask you to retain the existing R1 zoning. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, sir. Okay, anyone wishing to speak against? Come on up.
Hello. My name is Angela Frank, and my husband and I and our 2 children live at 1810 Pine Ridge Drive, right next to Mike. And this property is directly in our backyard, so it definitely impacts our family and our neighbors. So when we purchased our home, we understood that the land was likely to be developed someday. And we've never opposed that idea. We knew it was going to happen. We have a beautiful view right now, but we knew that there was going to be a development in there and that it was going to be the R1, so another single-family development similar to our own. Where we live is truly one of the most beautiful areas in Onalaska. We live right off of Cedar Creek golf course. It's gorgeous. We have the bluffs, and it's a beautiful natural area where we have deer in our backyard. It's just a lovely spot. Okay. So the thing that's the most important to me is that this neighborhood that we're proposing is incongruent with what we already have. We have this beautiful neighborhood with really nice homes and nice families, and we're proposing to make something that's much bigger and with a lot more density into that area. So the thing with that is that brings the more traffic, that brings more noise, that brings a lot more into our area when we already have this really beautiful, quiet, natural environment that would be perfect for a single-family neighborhood, again, similar to ours. The rezoning of the land from the R1 to the R4, it permanently eliminates the opportunity for more families to have single-family homes. Our community is in lack of that. There are many people currently looking for single-family homes in our community that simply can't find them and are having to move to Holmen or other areas because we don't have those types of neighborhoods. And I think, I could be wrong, but this might be one of our last areas in our community in Onalaska that is a residential, a single-family residential zoned neighborhood. And again, nothing, we just really, we're not against the idea of people living there. We want people to live there. We love where we are. But having the large magnitude of 40, I think it's 48 units was proposed. And that just increases that, like I said, that traffic and that noise, and it really permanently alters our really nice, beautiful area. I would encourage you to think about the long-term vision of Onalaska's housing needs. We've seen a significant amount of apartments and rental units coming into our area. There's a lot under construction right now. So it seems like a single-family neighborhood would be a really nice fit for that area where we're living, because we do have a lot of big, large rental communities coming into the area, and we really are lacking that level, R1 level housing development. Something that I think is really important when I think of Onalaska is I feel like home ownership, people that own their homes, they take pride in their community. They want to volunteer, they want to help, they really take pride in the people that they live around, and they create long-term legacies in these homes. Like you heard those people, they said they lived in their same house for 32 years or something like that. Normally in apartment rental type style homes, people don't live there that long. And so when we're creating these nice single-family communities, we're really strengthening Onalaska. And I think that's what we all want as members of our community, is to really strengthen what we already have and create that community feel that's so important, that's gonna really continue to help our community further and to help further generations to have that stability in our neighborhoods. So I really hope that you guys will consider keeping this an R1 district for our community and to to say no to the R4. So thank you guys for listening, and I appreciate you guys.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Adrian Hagan. My wife Doris and I live at 2161 Sand Lake Road on Alaska, which is immediately to the west of the subject property. In fact, their west line and our west line are the same line of fence posts. And we've lived there now for 51 years coming this fall. In fact, we even danced in the old Silver Spur Saloon that used to be where the golf course was, if any of you remember that, and I know some of you do, Kim included. So we've been there a long time and seen a lot of changes. And this particular change we're not real wild about because I can't speak for every neighbor because I don't know all of them, but the ones that I do know are of the same sentiment that because this area is single-family dwelling, single-family zoning, and the bulk of the housing to the south of us, to the west, and to the north and east are all single-family dwellings. There are a few others mixed in, but if you may recall back when the Meyer Farm was approved, that at that time there was quite a controversy in there because they wanted to put in some multiple dwellings, and they did allow a few, but not very many. So it's basically single-family. And that was the scheme way back when you had a, whatever you call a master plan or whatever you called at the time, and that's what that area was designated as. So we would like to see it stay the same. Not the big houses and all of the 48 units now and 122 parking spaces. We know what that's going to represent because we know what traffic is on that road now. And if you ever spend any time at the corner of S and Sand Lake there, boy, there's a lot of traffic goes in and out of that driveway. It's amazing. I walked over there in the past, and you have to stand there and wait, and you could drink a cup of coffee between the times you can get across that intersection walking because of the traffic, and that's no fooling. Now, I don't know if you have a traffic count there, but it would be interesting to see that. So our concern, of course, is that with this development, we're going to have a lot of cars. They're planning for 122 parking spaces. So obviously, 2 cars a unit at least, plus some extras. And they're all going to go out one driveway in the middle of that curve in Sand Lake there. And for anybody who might not be familiar, you ought to take a look at that. I know there's the sightline thing and all of that, but when you talk about all those people, and these are going to be 3-bedroom units, and I understand there's no age limit or anything like that involved, so it means all kinds of families. It means kids of all ages. It means school buses stopping. And Sand Lake Road is busy right now. And this is a large number of vehicles to dump onto it at that particular location. Now, I know they're not all going at one time and all of that, but with that many, there's bound to be a lot of traffic in and out of there. And one driveway, that's really overkill, it seems like to me. So that's I guess our main concern as far as the zoning goes, because if you change the zoning, then that allows for this kind of development to occur. And the single-family thing is out the window, which we feel would be more suitable for that area. So that's our contention. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Welcome.
Hi, Andrea Gunderson. I live at 2209 Sand Lake Road. I'm speaking against the zoning change. Different concerns. One of the big ones, like Adrian had just mentioned, was traffic concerns. A lot of congestion at the County Road S and SN. There is site problems coming around that corner, turning off into S. I have been told in the past, I don't know if it's true, that they can't do any expansion to County Road SN. So that frightens me that we're going to have that many cars coming out of one driveway. I'd like to kind of know what they're guesstimating for daily traffic volumes. And we've talked about the parking spots, or it's been talked about for the resident vehicles, but what about visitor vehicles and buses and rideshare services, delivery trucks, service, maintenance drivers? We have to take all those numbers into account as well. And if we have school-age children, will that school bus sit out on Sand Lake Road, or will that come into the parking lot? Just concerns with traffic that I have there. Another big thing that we have on County Road SN, or Sand Lake Road, is flooding. And we've had flooding in our driveway, washed out our driveway every two to 3 years since 2017. We've had it in 2017, we had it in 2021, we had it in 2022, 2025, 2026. Washing out our driveway, we have to pay to have that fixed every time that happens. So there's a huge area of flooding there, and that is another concern with another big building and a lot of payment. I want to know where that water is going to go from that property. Sure, they are built up, but our next door neighbor has a low property, we have a low property, so it's just really the two of us that just get flooded out every time it rains there. I'm wondering if there's been a study done. What kind of risk are we talking about with the runoff being diverted onto our properties? Is there any kind of engineering certification that the road frequency will not be increased by this? Is there going to be a detailed storm management plan with no net increase in runoff from leaving the site? And one of the biggest things is the city going to do regular inspection and maintenance of the stormwater system? Because like I said, this flooding is a huge problem for us. Worried about emergency access, public safety. We have no sidewalks out there, a lot more people. We have a lot of people walking and biking now, and people speed like crazy on Sand Lake Road, especially down that straightaway. So I do worry about pedestrian safety. I'm not sure if fire trucks will be able to turn into that building. Can we get emergency services into that property? The sharp jump in the density among the other developments, it's just such a big development, and we are all single-family homes around there. So to me, that's just a huge jump. And I really would like to know, is this consistent with our comprehensive plan? I mean, is this what our city is moving towards? Is just these high-density living areas and getting rid of single-family dwellings? I'm worried too about light, noise, privacies. What will the buffers be? I did look at some of the plans, and they have arborvitae, it looks like, and some fencing. But anybody that has any kind of arborvitaes know that deer eat them, even if they're labeled as deer resistant. So if you've got a arborvitae and you've got a fence and you've got another arborvitae, they're going to be eaten 6 feet up. I mean, they're hungry, they're going to eat everything. So what's that going to look like? And what's the plan to change that? Because you're going to have to change that, because it will happen. I can guarantee it. Concerned about the parking spaces. You know, it increases heat, adds oil, salt, contaminants to the runoff. And again, we're already on a floodplain road. And then I'm wondering about compliance with noise, lighting. You know, if people aren't meeting those, I want to say rules, how will that be enforced if we have problems with the neighbors? And that's, I guess, what I have to say. So, yep, just not in favor of the high-density zoning. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Doris Hagan. I live at 2161 Sand Lake Road. We have 5 acres, and we're right next to this property that they're proposing this development on. I also would like to speak in keeping it less people than are there. Now, do you have a map? Did you get what they want to propose? Do you have that and have a chance to look at it? You people on the council, can you answer?
No?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Well, I
We're
hope you
listening,
did get
though.
a map, because
We
we
are
got one a
listening
couple
and-
weeks ago.
We are
And
listening.
we were
and
here
we're
several years ago when they wanted to put 5-story buildings up there. And we said, please reconsider, and the council did. Now, I don't know if you vote right after we're done now with the decision to go ahead or not, but I hope you consider it, and consider those of us who have been in this area for many years. And you know, Kim, from many years ago, we were in 4-H, and we had 4 horses out there for many years and rode over in where the golf course is now. And we had 13 sheep when my son was in 4-H. So we love that area. And we would like to see if buildings do go up where they have to have an apartment, that they would be maybe people that own it or senior citizens, not just anybody that comes in and is going to make a lot of noise and disturb that area. This morning we took a walk down the road, and we have 2 little fawns in the area, and they love arborvitae, so we know they've eaten ours, and they eat our flowers too, but we love to see them around the area. And we are in a floodplain, so the front part of our 5-acre property flooded in April, comes from the golf course across the street and flooded part of our area. So we will never be able to develop that into apartments if we sell our 5 acres. Right now, our family is interested in that land, so we hope to pass it on to them. Both of my son and daughter are here tonight supporting it too. So we love Onalaska area, and we would like to see you think about it. And these people that have spoke before and suddenly find that, you know, they're not, have their privacy and their things that they had, and they're good citizens and taxpayers in supporting Onalaska. We'll hope you consider that before you vote to turn it into a place where there'll be 48 plus more strangers. We don't know how long they'll be here or what they'll do or contribute to the Onalaska community, which we felt after being here 50-some years, we've contributed quite a bit.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening. My name's Craig Waldvogel. I live on 1850 Pine Ridge Drive. I'm not quite as prepared or as eloquent as some of these other that have come up here, but I would just like to echo some of the points that have been brought up. Mr. Eckstein, I think, made an excellent point. One thing that I would question or ask the committee to question is it reasonable to change from R1 to R4? And if that is deemed reasonable, I guess my next question would be, how do people purchase real estate or buy anything in the town of Onalaska, city of Onalaska, with any kind of confidence based on how things are zoned? When I purchased my home 8 years ago or so, I knew that it was zoned R1, this property, the property behind mine, and so I knew what I was getting myself into, knowing that it could be developed, it could be split, but it was going to stay residential. If this is changed into R4, my confidence is quite frankly shaken on that, and I don't know how you can go in purchasing anything with confidence. The other thing is, I don't know all the rules here, so my apologies, but I can see in the next one that they're asking to change back kind of the settings, and I don't know, I think that should have been discussed previously, because it seems to me that if they're already asking for changes in setbacks, this property is not big enough to withstand or withhold what they're asking for to begin with. So I would like that to be considered as well. Anyway, I'm opposed. I appreciate the time, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Welcome.
My name is Bill Waldvogel. I am the father of the last speaker. And the only reason why I actually
You need
live
to
at
say your address.
1900 Fields Court. So I'm right next to this property, just moved into the area. Actually, my perspective is I'm a banker. I'm still a banker. I've been on economic development. I'm a big supporter of economic development, was the vice chair of our economic development group for multiple years. Talked to our director today, because we do need to have growth, and we do need to have, we've got to be progressive. But I think the issue out here is not how many cars are going to go by. It's not what kind of neighbors you're going to have. I think the issue is the character of your neighborhood. And this is an R1 single home residential area. And if you changed it to duplexes, because that improves the density somewhat and makes better use of this, I think that could be very well appropriate. But I think that everybody has to understand, and when I was on economic development, there's a big difference between single-family residence and multi-housing. The character of the community is different. And I just hope you keep that in mind when you vote on this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, anyone else wishing to speak against the rezoning application? Here we go.
Good evening. Dennis Borchard, 2225 Sand Lake Road. I'm 3 mailboxes down the road from this property that we were here 2 to 3 years ago with the same situation of high density. At that time, I believe it was 150 units, if I remember correctly, with 300 cars allowed in that corner. Now I understand it's 48 units and allowed 2 per unit, call it 50, that's 100 cars. A gentleman here said how many times the average car goes in and out of an apartment? 8 times? Okay, take that per day. And if most of these are young people and they're both working, you probably got 2 cars going out daily from every apartment. Now, the last time we were here, unless the state law has changed, and the mayor ended that one immediately, you cannot enter the arc of a corner with a driveway. Can somebody here legally tell me that answer? That was illegal 2 or 3 years ago. You have to enter at a 90. The only 90 is across from S. You cannot enter, that entrance there, or exit and entrance, is probably 100 feet different from the last proposal, which was immediately in the middle of the arc. And the state said no. At that time, we said we didn't have a problem with like the apartments over on Krause Road that are duplexes, privately owned, 1 level. Back at that time, they wanted to put up 3 levels. Now we're down to what, 2 levels? Get some reasonable amount of people in one small area. You got what, 400 apartments around the corner across the street, and they're still building. How many more 1,000 people you want to put on that one corner? They're all coming out of that unit next door to that corner. I am definitely against this. I've been there 50 years and 7 months. I'm not quite up to Adrian. And like I said, and you talk about deer and accidents, I had to wait for 2 fawns in the driveway, probably the same one Andy saw. We are inundated with deer out there. You wouldn't believe the number of hits. And you see these motorcycles and people come around that corner at night 60 miles an hour and it's a 35 zone. And that's the low speed limit. So I am definitely opposed to this. I'm not opposed to privately owned condos. To me, I have no objection to it. I can't speak for my neighbors, but for myself, I don't have a problem with that. Right now, all of us in our stretch, we're old people. We don't have little kids. There's no buses stopping. Start putting buses on that corner and see what happens. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we have anyone else wishing to speak against? Second call for anyone wishing to speak against the rezoning for Sand Lake Road. Third and final call for anyone wishing to speak against the rezoning application for 2137 Sand Lake. Okay, not seeing or hearing anyone. The public hearing is now closed. And I'll ask Katie Aspenson, our city planning director, to introduce this topic to our plan commission this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. The project today is to a proposed rezoning from R1 low density to R4 high density residential. The parcel is surrounded by land zoned by low density containing single and two family dwellings, as well as a multifamily development located along Fraser Way, as well as land zoned public and open space. The comprehensive plan identifies this area with the multifamily land use category. The Live On It 2040 comprehensive plan notes that this land use is to allow for large-scale multifamily developments to add to the city's housing supply and a variety of housing options. The parcel in question contains one single-family dwelling today and is approximately 5.84 acres in area with access to the site from Sand Lake Road. The developer is requesting to rezone this property to accommodate a future multifamily row house development. Included in your packet this evening is a conceptual site plan showing the locations and counts of row houses, parking areas, and a private drive serving the development. The developer also indicates that there is a secondary access driveway for fire protection purposes, as well as buffering and screening along the western and southern boundaries adjacent to the residential dwelling, which is in conformance with the Unified Development Code and zoning ordinance. The concept plan proposed does not completely conform to the UDC related to the maximum street yard setback, and the developer has applied for a planned unit development to request a deviation from the UDC for this development at the same time as the petition. The requested zoning is in conformance with the Live On It 2040 comprehensive plan. City staff have put together a total of 9 conditions of approval for this development. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Katie. With that said, what is the desire of the Plan Commission this evening?
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the rezoning application to rezone the parcel of land from low-density residential R1 to high-density R4, facilitating new row house development project located at 2137 Sand Lake Road, tax parcel 18-4509-1, with 9 conditions as outlined by city planner.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Eric Archer. It's been seconded by Kathy Lohendorf. Discussion. Jared?
Thank you. A couple of the questions that came up tonight, just with the site in general, and no matter what happens with the site, these are all questions that are going to come up with the site development. The developer has worked with, over the last number of years, to receive federal FEMA approval for the fill that was placed at the site. That site was has a letter, conditional letter of map revision for the fill that was placed, and they have a letter of map revision for the FEMA floodplain map, so they can build on the site. Working with the architect on the development, they have been informed of certain items that they must adhere to meet the FEMA requirements. This whole area is part of the 1% annual chance 100-year floodplain. Sand Lake Road does flood during a 100-year storm event, so this area would flood around the development when it does flood. A stormwater management plan would be required, as with any development of this size that would be submitted for city review. This site does have proposed one driveway coming off of Sand Lake Road. I do not know of any state statute that you cannot go out onto a curve. There would be a site distance review for the driveway, but I believe with the length of that curve that it would meet that at a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit. Ultimately, La Crosse County does have jurisdiction of this roadway beyond Sand Lake Road and S. That is, so they would have to get a La Crosse County driveway permit from the County Highway Department for the development. We are looking at the development. We have not obviously gotten any finalized plans, so any development that would go through our site plan process, we would look at such things as fire department access, utility access, things such as that. It appears that at the first conceptual drawing, that fire department access can be maintained. They have proposed in their layout a second access that would only be used for the fire department if needed. The development would have connections to our city water and sewer system that would be extended into the site. I think those are kind of the main infrastructure questions that, as the individual did point out, as I pointed out before, you know, we've got in this development shown 48 units. That would be, traffic-wise, that'd be anywhere, typically it's 9 trips per household for a single-family home, a little bit less usually in a rental unit, so it'd be anywhere from 350 to 400 new trips per day total for this development. Sand Lake Road is a collector. I believe it has 5,000 to 6,000 vehicles a day on it right now. That roadway, from a infrastructure standpoint, is slated to have that traffic on it. With that, that's what I had for my notes coming from the public hearings. So.
Jared or Katie, do you know is there any proposed, like, sidewalk, bike path, pedestrian safety on the road or anything like that proposed?
So when that roadway was redone, the last iteration, the county redid that. I did attend a public meeting on the roadway reconstruction. There was quite a few parcel owners, not in this area, but further up, that were vehemently against putting a sidewalk in at that public meeting. Obviously, it was a county project, not a city project when the road was redone. So the county did not pursue any pedestrian facilities along that route.
That's how I remembered it too. Okay, commissioners, questions or comments? I did have one more question. Katie, since we have so many people here, which is very nice, we like it when people come. A lot of times we sit here and nobody's even here, and that's frustrating. Could you talk just generally about the zoning? I feel like some people seemed like surprised it would go from R1 to R4. Can you just talk about why that would happen?
Sure. So in 2020, the City of Onalaska adopted a new Unified Development Code, and as part of that, we created new zoning districts, and we reallocated. So prior to this time, we had R1, which allowed single family, R2 was single family and 2 family, and then R4, which was just anything beyond 3 units or more. So when people would rezone something to R4, they had no concept and idea of what type of development they would be seeing. So as part of the new Unified Development Code, city staff moved in and we suggested that there be a 3rd district, R3, that would specifically address middle density between, which would allow single family all the way up to 8 units per parcel, depending on the size of the parcel. Therefore, leaving R4 specifically meant for higher density housing. This description is important because when we look at the comprehensive plan, what we have for our high density residential category, it was the intention that we are looking for higher density properties. Where R4, there are, as stated by an individual here, yes, there are more than one district that can tie to that particular one. But I can tell you with this particular parcel, since 2005, it's always been intended for a mixed-density property. For every iteration of comprehensive plans from that date to today, explicitly and in the Levana 2040 plan was where we parceled out densities beyond just mixed density, allowing more flexibility and direction for what we want to see in this development. So in the eyes of the planning staff and for the city, we've anticipated this particular site to have density. Yes, back in 2015, there was a request that came forward specifically for this property to rezone it to R4, and that was not successful with a planned unit development. What has changed significantly in that time is the amount of density that they wish to do. That was a combination of a multi-story apartment building in addition to row housing. So from that development to this development, I believe there have been a lot of changes that have been proposed in the way of buffering. The R4 district now has design standards that did not exist prior to our 2020 code. Again, making sure that the developments that are going in had minimum window sizes, specific architectural treatments. Again, none of this prior to the 2020 code existed. So it's our intention that when we're allowing in these new developments that we're trying to make them as compatible with the neighborhood so it works together. To note that the Pine Ridge area, Fraser Way, Pine Ridge Drive, typically doesn't go out onto Sand Lake Road near this particular development. Yes, it is in the backyards of the individuals of Pine Ridge Drive and also Fraser Way. There is a buffer right now, which is a pedestrian path that Jared could talk to that exists between there. It looks like it's all one large vacant area, but there's actually multiple properties that exist there. So city staff are supportive of this request. We think it's appropriate. We feel that the way that they have designed the site is significantly less dense than their original request back in 2015. And they had taken a lot of the different feedbacks and thoughts, and they've been really thoughtful about this. We've seen many iterations of what this project could be over time, and ultimately, it's up to the developer, provided the zoning matches what they want, that they can choose what to do with the property as well, provided the zoning is in place for what they'd like to achieve.
Thank you for that, Katie. Okay, back to the commissioners. Do you have any more questions or comments? Eric Scholander?
Just a quick question. Is there an area in the city right now where there is an R1 zoning adjacent to an R4? And
Yes.
what is that?
Yes, it exists throughout the community.
Okay. What would be an example of that?
Give me a moment to pull up my zoning map.
While you're doing that, just so I heard correctly, I may have missed it, Jared, you had mentioned something about the driveway access, and that's something that would have to be applied through the county on where that is located?
Correct. The driveway, because it enters the county highway, they have maintenance authority on that roadway beyond. Technically, Sand Lake Road ends at the intersection of County Took Highway S and County Took Highway SN. So when SN North SN proceeds, they'll have to get a county highway driveway permit.
Okay, thank you.
Katie, back to you.
Sure, I can give a variety of addresses. Just continuing on Sand Lake Road at the intersection of Sand Lake Road and Kyle Lane, there's a multifamily development. If you look on Century Place, East Avenue North, being directly adjacent to Roush Rentals, granting it that one, it's apartment buildings as opposed to row housing. Moving on throughout the city, if you look on 10th Avenue North, there's a variety of locations where it's directly R4 next to R1. If we continue on, a very good chunk, Hickory Street down south near the cemetery, there's R4 directly adjacent to R1. So what I can tell you is that it exists. What's more prevalent is R2 being directly adjacent to R4. But again, in R2, there's a lot of single-family homes, so while they could be zoned R2, they could still be single-family adjacent to R4. So it is located throughout our community. This would not be a standalone rezoning.
Jan, did you have a comment?
Despite the fact I'm not a lover of density, I actually do think this project fits in there quite well. My question is this: one of the things I like about this project is that all of the units have 3 bedrooms. The question here is, do we have a lot of, I mean, we've got a lot of rental property in that area. Do we have a lot of 3-bedroom units in the community? That seems to be a good thing to me.
We do not have a lot of 3-bedroom. It's not common to see a lot of that. Typically, we see 1 and 2 bedrooms. So the fact that this particular development is proposing 3 units is appreciated by city staff. It's very difficult to find that large of a unit available. So if the intention is to do workforce housing, I believe they're trying to achieve it with this development.
Eric Archer?
I do live on 10th Avenue North, so I'm in one of those areas where those do abut next to each other. So I just want to, I sit where I sit. No, thank you. So I live on 10th Avenue North, so I'm in one of those areas where those 2 districts do touch each other, so I can sit from a little bit of experience with that. Jan, I'll tell you another benefit to the 3-bedroom, just wrapped up a term on the school board. My brother teaches at OHS, my 3 kids go to OMS and OHS, and we will not have teachers if school district continues to decline. So should teachers be in the room and district administrators, they would tell you that if we turn down housing developments where we can bring in families, impacts to the community will be okay. Yeah. Thank you. Yep, I had that wrong. Thank you. Yep.
Okay. Okay, Eric Scholander. Okay, audience, please, you had your chance to talk. Let us now have our discussion, please. We were respectful when you were speaking. Now you can be respectful while we're speaking. Eric Scholander?
Under the 9 criteria, it does reference drainage and erosion, and I just want to clarify or understand correctly that that will require, the plans will be approved provided the erosion and drainage are in compliance, but how does that impact neighboring properties?
So this project is in excess of an acre, so it'll have to obtain the necessary DNR and R216 permits that particularly pertain to stormwater. So as stated with the last question, if the rezoning is approved by the Common Council, they would come forward and prepare for city staff review, grading, drainage, erosion control, all things that would fall under Jared Holter's purview as part of that. And if they don't satisfy the standards, the project doesn't get approved. But Jared, if you want to touch on that additionally, thank you.
Yeah, for any development that comes through that is commercial in nature, which any kind of non-single family or duplex, twindo type development is, there's a site plan review, so we review all those things. There'll be utility review, sanitary sewer review, there'll be drainage review, there'll be stormwater plan to review. Part of what this is a unique location, as the residents pointed out, and we've discussed already, is when we do receive a 1% annual rain event or a 100-year rain event, the street will flood, the area will flood. These buildings will be built high enough and to an elevation that they will not flood at that elevation. But the roadway out front does flood during a 100-year storm event. So we'll be looking at the stormwater management plan just to make sure that the lower events do not leave the site, but during a 100-year event, if you look at the floodplain map, as the resident at 2161 stated, their whole front to the half of the property currently floods. So,
Thank you for that. Any other questions or comments from the commissioners? Okay, the motion on the floor is to approve this with the 9 conditions as stated. With that being said, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say no. Motion passes 5-1. Thank you. Okay, item 6 is also a public hearing. This is for a general development plan application to create a planned unit development to allow for a new row house development project and request deviation from the Unified Development Code, including but not limited to exceeding the maximum street yard setback. This is located at 2137 Sand Lake Road. This is tax parcel ID number 18-4501-1. The applicant is All Things Holding, LLC. I'll now open the public hearing and ask for anyone wishing to speak in favor of this general development plan application. Welcome.
Welcome. I'm Colin Close, and I'm the architect for this project from Midwest Design and Development. That's N5560 County Road, ZM, Holman, actually, Town of Alaska.
Thank you.
One of the, there's been a lot of thought and a lot of correspondence with the City of Onalaska and their staff, and we were asking for in this PUD, the only thing that we did not meet was the setback. And to clarify that, we can't legally meet that setback because the based flood elevation is such that we have to stay 20 feet away from that, and that puts us more than 40 to 45 feet away from the property line. So we're literally have our hands tied. We cannot do it. The City of Onalaska can't do it. So unless you want a lawsuit, that can't be done. So that was the only thing that we did not meet in terms of design or setbacks or any of these site control issues. And we provided ample parking on purpose, so there is no parking effect into any of the areas around. It's also been designed on purpose that the major elevation is only 24 feet 9 inches. The average home is somewhere between 17 to 20, so it fits in as about as good as it can with the surrounding areas. And the buffer units were put in there and the screening so that it does not affect and not adversely affect. Also, because of some of the elevation, there's almost one whole property line that the elevation of the property next door is higher. So the only thing they would ever see would be the rooftop of. So we've done a lot of work in terms of making this fit the residential feel, so it will not stand out from whether it be elevation or material, like it's residentially designed. So every 40 feet there's different material, and it ties in with the surrounding areas.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the general development plan? Second call for anyone wishing to speak in favor. Third call and final call for anyone wishing to speak in favor of the general development plan application. Okay, that portion of the public hearing is now closed, and I'll ask if anyone would like to speak against the general development plan application to create the planned unit development for the property at Sand Lake Road.
Well, here we go again.
Okay, start with your name and address.
Adrian Hagan, 2161 Sand Lake Road. Everything I said before applies to this situation you're looking at right now. And it always seems to me that when you rezone, you're more or less given it's a done deal. So I don't think the zoning could come first, but that's discussion for another time and probably never happen. But I had the same reservations about the more impervious surface you put over there, the more roof lines, the more paving, blah, 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 you get more runoff. I have a real quarrel with the runoff pond that's established for that property, which has been there since the fill took place. It's on the south end of the property along the south line. Part of it is on their property, part of it is on the city, 20-foot city trail that runs across there, and part of it is on the private land that's south of it. So it's on multiple properties besides this one. And if I'm not mistaken, the law says you have to keep it on your property. So there's a question about that to me. Anyway, the other problem with it is the low spot in that area dumps right directly onto my property. And I know that's against the law. That's my big concern. That pond that was established in there, or the proposed location for the runoff water, already has had a big washout on it that occurred several years ago, and that's never been repaired, so that it's already diminished capacity. And that's why I think, where's all that water going to go? And if some of it goes there is on the sand, right around the curve on Sand Lake, there is a storm sewer grate there in the curb line, and it goes across the road and dumps into the right-of-way, which is in between Sand Lake Road and the golf course. That area there that looks rough most of the time because it's not part of the golf course, it's part of the road right-of-way. It dumps into there. In 2017, when we had the big flood, that whole runoff pond for the Krause addition and go over into the golf course there at the area just described, that's what filled up with water and put 4 feet of water over my driveway in 2017. So, you know, this is a multiple problem here, but the more you add to it with area that can't absorb water, the more problem you have with that. And the bigger buildings and all of that stuff is, a lot of it's going to be paved over compared to what it was. At the time of that other flood, there was no fill in there. It was whatever the land was before that. And so that's changed. And Jared and I have had this discussion many times, that when you fill up a little part of the floodplain like that, as far as the whole floodplain goes, it's not a concern. But it's like, you know, your 7-year-old son fills up the bathtub and then he and 2 of his closest friends get in there. What happens? It overflows, because it's right there is where it's important, where that situation occurs. You know, down the floodplain, they don't even know what took place. But there, the immediate area is the one that's hurt by that. You know, the bathroom that overflows, that gets hurt. Probably doesn't bother your garage, it's certainly not the neighbors next door, but for your property, it's really important. And that's my biggest concern when that goes in, is for that situation. Where's the water going to go? So just wanted to get that out there for you. I'd invite you all to come out there and look at that area. I think it would be very interesting for you to see what the area actually looks like, other than just look at a map on paper. So you're welcome to come out and do that. Glad to show you the area. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Welcome.
Hey, welcome. Good to see you again. So,
Name and address.
Mike Eckstein, 1820 Pine Ridge Drive. So my backyard is right up to there. So, and I've lived there with my neighbor in 2017 when we had the flood. And do you guys remember? I don't know if you can answer or not, but if you're
Yes.
around when they had the flood. So that flood came all the way up to the top of the hill, and we had water seepage into our basement, and brand new, relatively brand new house. And so, you know, we didn't have the insurance. When they built, they raised it up to get out of the flood zone. That's how we were able to buy that lot without having a flood zone insurance. And then they parsed a piece of it out of it to put you know, so that we could purchase it without having flood insurance. Well, it didn't help. And I don't know if that's multiple years, we had seepage into the basement and things. So eventually we had to redo our whole basement, put a system in to hopefully alleviate that from the future. And that's on a sandy driveway. And that's up on the top of the hill. And now they put fill in. And where's the water gonna go? How does that impact the development around there to all the other neighbors and to what could potentially happen to their existing facility? And shouldn't that be answered prior to approving the zoning and prior to approving the setback based off of the FEMA regulations? And I admit that's not my area of expertise, but I would definitely want to have my T's crossed and I's dotted as a planning commission before we would make such significant votes. And I appreciate the fact that, you know, mentioned me and how R4 is not required to have the residential requirement. On Alaska, you know, your planning commission does not state that at all, that it requires R4, even with the alternative definitions to allow that to have happen. And I do, as it relates to this, you know, if this law is coming down the path and you developed a plan as a city and as a commission where it's pretty loosey-goosey, I mean, you're going to have wild, wild west out there for people just coming in here and saying it's R4, I can, no rhyme or reason. And it doesn't abide to the principles that are in that document. And I pointed them out very clearly, and I directly quoted your own documents. So I just wanted to share that. And so I, as my neighbor, I don't want this to be approved, because if it is approved, to allow the initial one to go forward. And so you get a second shot at doing the right thing for my neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Dennis Borchard, 2225 Sand Lake Road. Back when Cedar Creek Golf Course was built in the late 80s, 88, 89, we had a big hearing right here, and Arlen Prox was one of your attendants at that time, and I told Arlen, I said, you know, I've stood in the middle, as before the curb and gutter now. I said, I've stood in the middle of Sand Lake Road with water right here, up to my knees. And we got this hydrologist from Madison, they got the golf course figured out. That'll never happen again. That 4-foot berm that's in the golf course is supposed to have been on our side of the road. The county never enforced it, and Onalaska never enforced it. The flood area was supposed to go on the edge of the golf course. Nothing ever got done about it. I don't know if you people were here in about 1991 or 2 when Main Street flooded and everything. We had the July the 4th big rainstorm. That area started cutting the road off. On Sunday morning, the county hauled in rock, which is still in there, and it took out a 100-year-old concrete bridge that Herb Krause had for his field there. Took it right out. Now you see that little footbridge that goes over Cedar Creek. That's what got replaced. Was it 2 weeks ago we had, 6 inches of rain? I got water in my front yard. It flooded into, our neighbors took their driveway out. It's still happening, and that's without any other runoff. It's just going to get worse and worse. I got a pile of sand on the bottom of my driveway from 2 weeks ago, up over the curb. Your city came out and put out signs, water over the road at 3 o'clock in the morning. This is just going to make it worse. And Adrian has problems with flooding off it right now, and it's just sand. When Paul Nelson lived there, I gave a little more room. I should have brought pictures tonight to show you the full lake from SNSN up to my house was water in 2017. I got pictures too. The other point I want to make is, I've got the abstract for my property. I don't have a title. The county does not own from my west line right away. The creek is over where it is because they do not own it from my corner to the corner of SN for that right away. It stops. It's been measured 3 times. I got 3 stakes in that big around. So that's why everything is pushed that way. It's never been bought right. I'd have lost half my front yard and the neighbors would have. But all that water's got to go somewhere, and it doesn't get down the Midway directly. It floods over on us, and it's just going to get worse.
Thank you, sir. Okay, anyone else want to speak against? Okay, we're on item 6, general development plan application. Anyone wishing to speak against? Second call for anyone wishing to speak against. Third and final call for anyone wishing to speak against. This public hearing is now closed, and I'll ask our city planner, Katie Aspenson, to introduce this topic to the Plan Commission this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. The developer is proposing to construct a new multifamily row house development that would contain 6 row house structures, 2 6 units, 3 8 units, and 1 12 unit. Each dwelling unit is proposed to contain 3 bedrooms with a 1-car attached garage. Additional service parking for individual units is adjacent to the units, as well as general parking in the center of the development, which well exceeds the minimum parking standards. Minimum green space, landscaping, buffering and screening, and architectural requirements required by the Unified Development Code have been satisfied with the proposed development. This plan unit development request is to allow for deviations and exceptions to code standards for proposed multifamily development. In particular, they are requesting to exceed the maximum street yard setback in the high-density residential R4 district. Included in the packet are attachments provided by the applicant with their plan set, as well as a cover letter. The city considered the following development design standards used to review PUDs as defined in section 13.02.32D through E of the Unified Development Code. Provided the R4 zoning goes through, the permitted use for having dwelling attached townhomes and row houses are permitted uses in the R4 district. There are no requested deviations relating to density and site standards or our lot dimension standards. In particular, for site dimension standards, Table 13.02.25-1 states that the required site dimension standards for setbacks, building width, and height maximums. Buildings in the R4 district are required to have a maximum street yard setback of 40 foot. That means that the frontward foundation of the home has to be within 40 feet of the right-of-way line. This development includes 6 different row house structures, all of which are proposed to exceed that maximum 40-foot setback. This site is required to adhere to a FEMA base flood elevation, BFE, line of 787.7 feet. To meet FEMA standards, all structures are to be set back 20 feet from the BFE line. The base flood elevation of nearby floodplain limits the availability of alternative structure placement. To accommodate this requirement, it's not possible for the structures to meet the UDC maximum setback requirement. City staff are in support of the request due to the pie shape of the lot, as well as adhering to FEMA standards that limit any alternative layouts. Approving the request would allow full use of the nearly 6-acre property to increase housing options for the city. There are no requested deviations related to environmental and cultural design. The proposed architecture of all of the units comply with the requirements of the R3 and R4 district-specific standards found in section 13.02.51 of the UDC. Again, no requested deviations. For parking, the proposed use requires 1.5 parking stalls per dwelling unit. The developer is proposing 122 parking stalls to serve the development, which is beyond what is required. There are no requested deviations. Pertaining to streets, utilities, and drainage, the driveway connections have to obtain their proper permitting prior to installations. Again, no requested deviation. For circulation and access, the proposed development has adequate circulation and access to the site. There is proposed emergency access drive will be gated with a fire department Knox locks. No requested deviation. For landscaping, all the proposed landscaping, buffering and screening, and tree requirements of the Unified Development Code have been met with the proposed development. There are no requested deviations. And lastly, as of right now, there are no signs that are being proposed with this development. City staff have put together a total of 11 conditions of approval for this development. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Katie. That being said, I'll turn this matter over to the Plan Commission this evening.
I'll make a motion to approve the general development plan application for the planned unit development for the row house development project at 2137 Sand Lake Road, tax parcel 184509-1 with, how many conditions?
11.
Katie? 11 conditions.
Thank you for that. Jared has made the motion with 11 conditions. Is there a second? It's been seconded by Eric Archer. Discussion? Jared, could you talk about some of the drainage questions that had come up during the public hearing?
Yeah, this site has been well studied for the flood elevation. It has went through the FEMA map revision process. That paperwork has been approved, so they can build. That was part of the fill placement. And when the stormwater management plan will be reviewed at the time of site plan approval, obviously they will have to maintain their stormwater from the site on site. One of the things, though, I would point out is that the properties to the west along Sand Lake Road, as they've already stated, do flood during a 100-year storm event. The area to the rear of the Pine Ridge Drive lots does also flood during a 100-year storm event. That's shown on the FEMA floodplain maps. So the flood elevation with this development, or any development that would go in here, has been approved through that process. So the base flood elevation, as stated, has been ascertained, and it's going to be submitted by a professional engineer and stamped and licensed, so we'll review it.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments or questions from the commissioners? Okay, not seeing or hearing any, the motion on the floor is to approve the general development plan application for the property at 2137 Sand Lake Road. There were 11 conditions. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Item number 7 is the final implementation plan application to create a planned unit development to allow for a new row house development project and request deviation from the Unified Development Code, including but not limited to exceeding the maximum street yard setback. This is located at 2137 Sand Lake Road. This is tax parcel ID number 184509-1, and the applicant is All Things Holding LLC. Katie, can you give us a brief summary of this item?
Yes, Mayor. As stated in the last agenda item, the developer is proposing to construct a new multifamily row house development. They are looking for one deviation from the Unified Development Code, and that is to increase the maximum street yard setback. And due to the character of the site pertaining to the FEMA base flood elevation line that they are required to be set back from, they are unable to meet the city's maximum street yard setback. City staff are in support of the request. City staff have put together a total of 10 conditions of approval for this development. There are no other deviations requested for this development.
Thank you, Katie. Okay, we're on item number 7. What's the desire of the Plan Commission?
Make a motion to approve the final implementation plan application and create a planned unit development to allow for new row house development at 2137 Sand Lake Road, tax parcel 184509-1 with the 10 attached conditions.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Jared Holter. It's been seconded by Eric Archer to approve the planned unit development with the 10 conditions. Is there any discussion? Not seeing or hearing any. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Number 8 is concerning Outlot 102, which is the Rivers Court right-of-way. This is public land dedication within the certified survey map document 1822725, volume 20, page 100. This is tax parcel ID number 184769-4. The applicant is the Rivers Hotel Company Incorporated. Katie, can you introduce this item to the Plan Commission this evening, please?
Yes, Mayor. In 2024 and 2025, the city approved 2 certified survey maps allowing the subdivision of land directly north of the Holiday Inn Express and Suites located at 2614 Midwest Drive. As part of the development, the driveway serving the Holiday Inn Express was converted to a public right-of-way, which was intended to be dedicated to the city. Due to an error on the CSM, the public land dedication did not occur. The purpose of this request is to accept Outlot 102 for a future public land dedication. The action requested tonight is a recommendation by the Plan Commission to the Common Council to accept Outlot 102 as future Rivers Court. Please ignore the Board of Public Works. There was a different conversation that occurred related to that. So your recommendation tonight is to go to the Common Council. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Katie. Okay, what's the desire of the Plan Commission this evening?
I'll make a motion to approve the plan, make a motion to accept Outlot 102 as future Rivers Court.
I'll second.
Should we have the door? Oh, that one is still open. Okay, so Eric made the motion. Who's Eric Scholander, who is actually here tonight, seconded it. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there further discussion? No discussion? Okay. The motion on the floor is to approve the public land dedication as described. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, motion by Eric Archer, seconded. Second by Kathy Lohendorf. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. The time is 8:14. Thank you all for coming in. We appreciate you, even on the
The
hard.
recording has stopped.